Here are things you didn't know about the JFK assassination that will blow your mind. On November 22, 1963, the world was stunned when President John F. Kennedy was shot down in front of them. But beyond the familiar facts, which are that JFK was assassinated and Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested, there are more secrets hidden. From the enigmatic figures in the crowd to the connections to intelligence like the CIA, these are the things you didn't know about the JFK assassination that will blow your mind.
My name is James Lavelle. I was a member of the Dallas Police Department. We had so many threats called in. They're going to take Oswald away from us and do all sorts of bad things to him. I said, what I'm going to do is just handcuff myself to him. So if they take him, they got to take me, and I'm not going to go willingly. Just as we was getting ready to go down, I told him, and Lee, if anybody shoots at you, I hope they're as good a shot as you are. He kind of laughed, and he said, oh, nobody's going to shoot at me. As we walked into the basement, I saw Jack Ruby. He was standing in the crowd of reporters and police officers. He had the pistol in his left hand pressed against his leg. He switched the gun over to his right hand and pulled the trigger.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's the man with a gun.
What Rob Reiner thinks happened. There are many things that you didn't know about the JFK assassination, and Rob Reiner is revealing some secrets about that historic tragedy. He calls it a turning point in American public life. When that happened, he was just 16 and watched the event happening live, causing him to investigate what truly happened over the years.
You know, I was 16 when it happened, and anybody who was alive at the time will never ever forget where they were when they heard.
He says that the official narrative of a single man killing the president is hard to believe. His conspiracy model involves 3 overlapping rogues. He says that there are 3 parties involved in this assassination. First, the rogue elements within the CIA who were no longer under the regular chain of command. Secondly, there are the anti-Cuban exiles who felt betrayed by Kennedy's policies. And finally, figures within organized crime who feared that Kennedy would crack down on their operations. This could have caused an unlikely alliance that meant motive, means, and opportunity. Reiner says that the assassination was not executed by a single shooter from the 6th floor window of the Texas School Book Depository, which is the narrative given by the Warren Commission. Instead, there might have been multiple shooters positioned at carefully selected vantage points, one on the grassy knoll, one in the front, and others coordinating the distraction and the escape. He pointed out that the forensic testimony described entry wounds and trajectories that are incompatible with the lone gunman theory. He also revealed the declassified CIA files, which might reveal the presence of operatives and Oswald's previous relationships with intelligence assets. He doesn't just name Oswald and Ruby as the suspects. He claims that there must have been 4 professional assassins who were physically present on the motorcade route, although he doesn't publicly list all the names in detail. He tracked their identities, revealing that these individuals had organized crime or CIA paramilitary backgrounds, and they disappeared afterwards. So Oswald might have been in that building, but he wasn't the mastermind, nor was he acting alone. He was probably a patsy, manipulated or ignored by greater forces. Reiner also says that the scale of the cover-up was massive.
Well, you know, it was a national trauma. Anybody who was alive at the time can remember exactly where they were when they heard the news. And I was in high school. I was in my physics class. A student walked in, whispered into the teacher's ear. He turned to us and said, I have some terrible, terrible news. Told us what had happened. Everybody was sent home, and then we watched nonstop from that moment till the moment where I saw on live television the man who was accused of killing President Kennedy himself got murdered by a nightclub owner named Jack Ruby. So this was a national trauma, and it stays with you.
He argues that the Warren Commission's limitations were deliberately planned, with agencies withholding or manipulating evidence, witnesses ignored or discredited, and the narrative shaped to protect those with high-level complicity. According to him, This assassination and its concealment was the moment when Americans first realized that their government was lying to them. In fact, what the intel agencies revealed to the world at that time isn't all that happened. They had some more information on Oswald that they never told the world. What the intel agencies really had on Oswald. One of the things that you didn't know about the JFK assassination has now been revealed by the CIA. Many believed that the government had little meaningful intelligence on the assassin. But newly released documents from the CIA reveal a deeper and more intriguing story. These files show that Oswald was constantly under watch, with tracks of travel, embassy visits, and contact with Soviet and Cuban officials. One shocking revelation that would blow your mind is that there are records of Oswald's visit to Mexico City in late September and early October 1963, which caused the CIA to carry out surveillance. He contacted the Soviet embassy and visited the Cuban consulate in Mexico City, which raised a lot of alarms in the CIA about covert operations tied to Cuba at that time. Documents revealed that agents in Mexico City intercepted phone calls involving Oswald and embassy staff, and in one of the recordings, Oswald identified himself in one of the conversations. Another declassified memo acknowledges that the CIA had opened a file on Oswald as far back as his defection to the Soviet Union in 1959 and subsequent return to the US in 1962. Despite all these connections, these newly released files only show that Oswald had a lot of secrets. But they don't show any concrete evidence tying Oswald to Cuban or Soviet governments, as Reiner said. But what this exposes is that the CIA was aware of Oswald's embassy visits and possible travel intentions, yet they didn't plan ahead to prevent the tragedy. Even if they had him under aggressive surveillance, they didn't take him down. Since Oswald was involved in a lot of suspicious movements and meetings, that also cancels out the theory of a lone shooter. He might have just been hired by a bigger power, one that the CIA has been unable to pinpoint. But what makes the investigations into the JFK assassination even more suspicious are the strange spectators that might be related to the shooting. The Umbrella Man. As CIA operatives looked at different pictures of people around the JFK assassination, there was something odd that stood out. It was a man holding an open black umbrella on a clear, sunny afternoon. That man became one of the most enduring curiosities of the JFK assassination, and for years he was dubbed the Umbrella Man. At first it was a very suspicious scene. Why was this man opening an umbrella when the skies were cloudless and the president was passing by? There were a lot of theories. Some researchers said that the umbrella could have been used to signal shooters, as it was raised at the precise moment of the fatal shot. Others speculated that the umbrella concealed a dart gun or other sinister device. But in 1978, the mystery became more suspicious when Louis Stephen Witt came forward before the United States House Select Committee on Assassinations. He admitted that he himself was the Umbrella Man in the photos and that the umbrella was only a political gesture, not a plot signal or a weapon. Witt also said that the gesture was aimed at the Kennedy family, referencing the symbolic black umbrella related to Neville Chamberlain, whose policy of appeasement in the 1940s was supported by Joseph Kennedy, the father of the president. Witt only brought the umbrella to heckle the motorcade. He also brought the umbrella, and when they examined it, they found no dart, hidden mechanism, or direct role in the shooting. So there wasn't any connection with the shooting, but it still brings up a lot of questions. The Umbrella Man in the picture was seen from afar, so we can only trust what Witt had to say. Also, there were many other witnesses and passers-by in that place, any of whom could be suspicious. Why were they there, and what were they doing? The Umbrella Man attracted attention because he was standing out with his umbrella, but there are many more who might have been secretly a part of the assassination. But as many were paying attention to the passers-by, there were some odd details that won't be revealed until later on. Odd details. One of them comes from the vantage of a 14-year-old boy in Dallas, who later reported that he had watched the president's face go blank at the moment of the fatal shot. According to a summary of facts, the teenager observed the expression change around 12:30 p.m. It's a fleeting memory, but it draws our attention to something strange about the assassination. It was almost like he had expected it to happen right before it did. But there's another detail that had to be carefully scrutinized after it happened. It turned out that the open-top limousine that Kennedy had ridden that day was flown in specially from Washington, D.C., just for the Texas trip. When you think of the journey of a vehicle, and the fact that it was set aside for the ceremony, it becomes more suspicious that something was off. And even after the shooting, there was another forensic oddity that came up. One agent claimed that after the shooting, he found a bullet lodged in the back of the seat where Kennedy had been riding. That completely ruined the lone shooter theory. A former Secret Service agent, Paul Landis, said that he discovered a bullet resting in the seam of the leather between cushions, picked it up, and later placed it on the stretcher used for the wound. That tiny piece of metal brought up more questions. How many bullets and how many trajectories were actually there? All these tiny details weren't exposed when it happened, as the CIA stuck to the idea that it was only one shooter that killed JFK. They didn't fully investigate the bystanders, the flown-in limousine, and even the extra bullets. But did you know that before Oswald carried out the assassination on JFK, he tried to shoot someone else? That causes you to wonder more about why the CIA didn't take him down earlier. Previous assassination attempt. In the earlier months of 1963, Lee Harvey Oswald made a move before he even went after the president. On April 10th of that year, it was revealed that Oswald attempted the assassination of the retired U.S. Army General Edwin A. Walker in his Dallas home, who was the rival to JFK. Walker was a fiercely outspoken anti-communist and segregationist and became a political lightning rod. It was later revealed that Oswald saw him as a very bad man and a fascist. Oswald purchased a mail-order rifle under an alias in March, and just a month later, the bullet crashed into the wooden frame of Walker's dining room window while Walker sat at his desk. The shot missed its mark, and Walker escaped with only slight injuries from bullet fragments to his forearm. Marina Oswald, his wife, later revealed that Oswald had told her he would travel by bus to Walker's home to do the shooting, and that he left behind a note in Russian instructing her what to do if he didn't return. But at that time, the CIA didn't know that Oswald was the assailant of the assassination. It was only after Kennedy's assassination, when investigators checked the earlier shootings and evidence, that they connected Oswald's involvement to the Walker attack. The official House Committee report on the assassination states, with respect to the Walker incident, there was substantial evidence that Oswald did the shooting, although at the time of the shooting it was not sufficient to implicate Oswald or anyone else. This points to a pattern in Oswald's behavior. He didn't act on mere impulse, but on political conviction, where he targeted a high-profile right-wing figure well before the national stage. It raised the question that if the earlier attempt had resulted in an arrest, would the tragic events that November have been prevented? If Oswald was arrested, would someone else have gone to assassinate Kennedy instead? But after many decades, the CIA is now releasing many declassified documents about the things you didn't know about the JFK assassination. Declassified documents, over 63,000 pages of previously classified records related to the assassination of John F. Kennedy, have just been released to the public, and they offer a glimpse into what the world was like at that time. What the documents reveal is telling. Many of these records don't focus on the assassination moment in Dallas, but instead delve into covert operations by the Central Intelligence Agency abroad, particularly in Cuba and Mexico. Among the uncensored files are detailed accounts of intelligence methods, spy networks, wiretaps, and foreign election meddling, all areas previously shown only in heavily redacted form. Yet, despite the magnitude of what's been released, historians emphasize that nothing so far appears to overthrow the established narrative that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in Dallas. One noted expert says bluntly, "Nothing points to a second gunman." All these are things that you didn't know about the JFK assassination, and they would blow your mind. Which of these do you think is real, and which do you think is simply a theory? Let's know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.